Hi Aries and Aries rising, this is your January 2017 forecast. So with the month kicking off with the sun in your 10th house, January is off to quite a productive start for you. The 10th house is the house of career, reputation. It's where we come into contact with authority figures and where we gain authority and reputation in our own right. So this house puts the spotlight on your career. It can also put the emphasis on your interaction with your parents, so your interaction with them could be more important at this time. This is a very future-orientated placement for the sun. It's also very public and visible. This is when you want to do course correction, so considering career objectives, goals, long-term plans for the future in this regard. So making changes to change the future, if that's the case, and you're going to be assisted in this with Mercury being in the 10th house until the end of January. So Mercury, of course, is retrograde until the 8th of January and then goes direct, but stays in your 10th house sector for all of January. So with Mercury in the 10th, it's still taking care of old business. You want to finish the jobs you've started. For some of you, there could be a change of status, either promotion or demotion, but hopefully not. Communications take on an important role, especially with managers and bosses. And you really want to think about how you manage your public image. If you can, you'll want to take a bit of a break at the beginning of the year from your work responsibilities and duties, if this is a possibility. So when Mercury goes direct, this is really when you can make changes that you've been considering with regards to career objectives. It's also a good placement, the 10th, for learning new skills on the job. So plan changes to make improvements. You can talk to superiors about how to get a promotion or how to get ahead. So advertising, contract negotiations on the job, all these kinds of business communications very important at this time. With Mercury, which is what's on your mind and how you think and speak, you can see the focus is really in career and professional advancement for you. Some procedural aspects like paperwork, filling out forms can really take precedence too, but really focus on honing your skills and, going further in your career objectives and goals. So this is also the time when you can make course corrections if you need to. So reshuffling things and, deciding what your future plans are professionally and working them out. So we've got your ruling planet Mars in the 12th house with Venus for the month of January. So Mars in the 12th can make you feel a little bit frustrated, like you're not getting credit or appreciation for what you do. But just bear in mind that, at the end of the month on the 28th of January, Mars will go into your first house. So this is when that comes to an end. So for now, you could just be honing new skills and improving your professional capabilities with Mercury in the 10th. And with Mars in the 12th, this is very good for just buckling down and getting the job done, working independently as much as you can. Venus in the 12th isn't too unhappy. I mean, Venus is the lesser benefic, and in the 12th house can show selfless service. It can also show a lot of creative work being done in private, so very good for artistic, creative work behind the scenes. So for some of you, it can also show a secret infatuation, especially with Mars and Venus together in the 12th. So perhaps there is someone who you're really pining for or you're developing a crush on. This is all a possibility with Venus and Mars in the 12th house. But with Mars in the 12th, your ruling planet, this is time when you can research things that you want to launch when Mars goes into your first house at the end of the month. So researching professional goals and ambitions once again and considering what direction you want things to take. Venus in the 12th can also show selfless service, so perhaps a lot of devotion and duty to someone that you care about and love is also an option. So let's look at what else is happening this month. The new moon on the 29th of December is about getting things off the ground and projects that you want to start professionally. So this energy runs for the first 2 weeks of January. And this is a very constructive new moon happening in Capricorn in your 10th house. So for you, this is going to be about assessing how you feel and think about career objectives and goals. You're gathering information, you're doing your research regarding future plans. The Sun, the Moon, and Mercury are lined up, and Mercury retrograde at this time, so gathering information. But the Moon and Mercury, this is you considering how you feel about something. There's also a sextile to Mars, which is very good for getting work done. It's, gives you the energy to get things done, to be assertive, to take risks. and good for group activity and teamwork professionally. So the new moon in Capricorn in your 10th house, again, the spotlight on career goals, objectives and ambitions, and how you want to advance them and further them in a very practical way. On the 1st of January, you've got your ruling planet Mars conjuncting Neptune in your 12th. And this can have you feeling a little bit off color, also a little bit fatigued. Neptune kind of strips some of the energy from Mars, so perhaps you're feeling fatigued from excess. You know, very often these planets together can show inebriation, Neptunian type activities. So for the next couple of days, you'll want to avoid things that are bad for you. So not too much overindulgence from here on out. This placement is also very good for selfless service and charitable activities. So on the 3rd, we've got Mercury in your 10th sextiling Venus in your 12th, and this is very good for leisure pursuits of the mind. It's good for reading and exploration and creative activity. It's good for expressing feelings of love and friendship, though perhaps you're still keeping those under wraps. So verbalizing your feelings, very good at this time. On the 7th of January, we've got the Sun conjuncting Pluto in your 10th house. Now, the Sun and Pluto in the 10th house can always show power struggles, you know, clashing horns with authority figures. So for you, this is going to be in the professional or work context. So you'll want to be a little bit careful at this time. You know, someone could be trying to assert some dominance over you. This energy can be creative or destructive. It really depends. This can also be very good for repairing a situation that's become untenable. So if there have been tensions, this will help you kind of shed light on them and see how you can, and you can assess the situation to see how you can, as I said, repair and renew. On the 10th, we've got the Sun squaring Uranus from your 10th to your 1st house, and this can show disruptions and upsets from normal routine. And for you, happening since your 1st house is being triggered and the 10th house of career and professional visibility, this can show upsets or conflicts, sometimes with people in power. So, you know, you'll want to be a little bit more careful at this time, you know, because you may accidentally rub somebody up the wrong way or, you know, make a misstep. So just be a little bit cautious with this energy. On the 11th, we've got the Sun in your 10th squaring Jupiter in your 7th. And this is very good as an energy boost for partnerships and for professional goals. So if there's something that you need to get started, this is the energy that you want to use for that. Don't take on more than you can handle professionally, because you'll have to do the work afterwards. And of course, now you'll be feeling boundless energy. And so this is very good for that, for getting things started, getting off the ground, cementing partnerships and alliances. It's also good for spousal partnerships as well. So a very positive, energetic aspect happening on the 11th. So the full moon this month is in your 4th house with very favorable aspects to Jupiter in the 7th. So the 4th house is, of course, the house of the home. It's your personal and private affairs. It's, you know, where you go for comfort and emotional security. So the full moon here can show, you know, lots of uplifting feelings around home and family still at this time, lots of positive thinking and good feeling. It can also be very good for entertaining with the aspects to Jupiter, because this shows generosity and goodwill. So a lovely new moon happening for you to feel stable and secure and rooted and connected with family and loved ones on the 12th of January. So a slightly more difficult aspect happening on the 19th. Mars is squaring Saturn, and Mars, of course, your ruling planet, as I mentioned, is a little bit frustrated in the 12th house. So you'll want to proceed slowly and cautiously at this time. You may find your efforts, blocked by circumstances or other people. This could be around travel or study plans. So also people that you respect, you may find them a little bit discouraging. So you'll want to keep your head down and be very slow, careful, and methodical. This is just an aspect that shows a lot of frustrated energy, perhaps anger too. On the 20th, the Sun moves into your 11th house, and this placement for the Sun, where it's going to be for the next month, it's all about groups that you identify with, your group identity, you know, your role in friendships, relationships, and that sort of thing indicated. So very social placement, so lively social calendar kind of lined up from here on out. And it's also where we get professional recognition, because it's the 2nd house from the 10th, so it's money coming in from our profession, so perhaps some professional rewards. It's a happy goal-orientated kind of placement for the sun, because the 11th house is also the house of hopes, dreams, and objectives, so furthering those things through social connections and other people. So on the 20th and the 23rd, we've got Venus sextiling Pluto from the 12th to the 10th, and again, any contacts between Venus and Pluto can really intensify feelings. Very good for creative work, artistic work and expression. So for group ties, for feeling more closely knit perhaps to people that you work with, but very good for creative work if you're doing that professionally. Or if you're not, you may find that there's more creative avenues of expression opening up for you in a professional context. On the 23rd, we've got Mercury sextiling Neptune. And this aspect really stimulates the imagination. It makes one more dreamy, more intuitive, more inclined to escapism. So not the best aspect for logical work and rational work, but very good for subtler, more penetrating insights. On the 27th, we've got Venus squaring Saturn. And this can make one be a little bit more cool and reserved and detached in terms of your interactions. So perhaps a bit of a cooling off. You know, you may find also that you're subject to some kind of criticism or review or evaluation, and you may just find that your mood is a little bit more gloomy and despondent, so perhaps a good time to spend on your own. So the new moon is going to be happening in your 11th house, and that's the 11th house of friendships, group connections, social opportunities, and income earned from business, and hopes, dreams, and objectives. So, you know, examining those things, new goals and plans within these regards. So, you know, goals involving networking, socializing, making connections professionally and socially. So those sorts of activities really favored for the 2 weeks following this new moon. So on the 29th, we've got Mercury conjuncting Pluto in the 10th house. So this again for the house of professional ideas and goals and objectives. And with Mercury here, this is very good for research, for investigation, for getting to the bottom of things. You know, again, for anything that kind of involves shrewd analysis and dissection, critical dissection. You may also find that you're subject to this, like you receive some kind of professional evaluation. So try and be a little bit detached if this is the case. So on the 31st, we've got Mercury squaring Uranus from the 10th to the 1st house. And this one you'll want to be careful of because it can sometimes show accidents, especially with the 1st house involved. So, and perhaps again, missteps professionally. So be a little bit more careful at this time. It is good for creative thinking, but one can feel a little bit nervous and scattered. So that can diffuse it a little bit. So try and get grounded and try and be careful in your professional contacts and associations because, you know, you might be more inclined to behave rashly or impulsively. So on the 28th, Mars, of course, goes into your 1st house in Aries. So this is going to be a very productive period of independent activity where you're really able to work to further your goals, aspirations. You know, so this is the planet of drive and ambition, and of course it's your ruling planet. So from the 28th onward, a very fruitful and productive period with an energized Mars in your sign. If you've enjoyed this forecast, please like and subscribe, and thanks so much for listening.